Hey, Amy.
Hi.
Oh, you're echoey. Wait, say something again, eh? Bill, you sound fine.
Okay. Oh, Hershey.
Hello. Hey, Bill.
Hershey?
Hey, everybody. Hey, David. Hey, Amy. Sorry.
Oh, you're muted,
You're
Amy.
muted.
Looks like it's going to be a short meeting.
Amy, you're muted.
It's okay.
No, you're still muted, Amy.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, there she is.
Down.
I was giving you the thumbs up, and I didn't even have my camera on.
Friend of mine, high school friend.
Whoa. Oh, it's feedback. You're looping.
Yeah, probably on the Owl Labs thing or something. Get it?
I'll mute myself while I hum.
Turned out to be a glorious afternoon, didn't it? Weather-wise.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, left the house this morning wearing a long sleeve, like t-shirt kind of thing, and an undershirt, and it was cold. And I thought I better bring a jacket, and I was sweating by the time I got home.
Yeah.
Amy, I thought you were out this week. Amy, can you hear me?
What you getting there? There she is.
Having a hard time with the owl. Where is she?
You've entered the outer limits, Amy.
I know.
How did the beginning of that show goes with that little guy with the styrofoam head? Does anybody remember that? Am I that old?
Which one?
Oh.
Which show are you talking about?
The Outer Limits.
Oh, geez.
You know,
Wow.
you've temporarily lost control. Was that Twilight Zone?
Yeah,
You've temporarily
Twilight
lost
Zone.
I remember
control over
Twilight
TV.
Zone.
I
Oh,
remember
the Outer
Twilight
Limits
Zone.
had that little reverb going on. I'll have to go
Yeah,
find
I
it on
remember
YouTube.
Twilight Zone.
Rod Sterling, baby.
Rod Sterling.
It was the best.
I just look at the
You have entered the Twilight Zone.
You've temporarily lost control of your TV set. We control the horizontal. We control the vertical. I can't remember what else we control.
Oh, God.
All of it, yeah.
We control your school board. No, just kidding. How's the campaign going, Jeff?
Splendid.
Yeah? You
That's
getting out
going all
there? You
right.
knocking on doors?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Out and about. I gotta make it over your corner next.
Oh,
My driver is out of commission for a little bit.
Oh, yeah, because she had shoulder surgery.
Yeah, yeah,
Shoulder surgery. I've had shoulder surgery myself, so I know how painful that can be.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
Can you hear us now?
That's perfect, Amy.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
I will only hear you once, not 15 times.
Now,
I'm okay with hearing you 15 times, Amy. I think that's okay.
What are you running for, Jeff?
Town council. One of the town council seats.
Are you running for the 3-year term or the remainder of Keegan's term?
The remainder, the 1 year that's left.
Yeah.
A lot of work for 1 year, but it's been a good experience though. It's been fun, kind of, doing the whole shebang here.
There's I think what, 5 candidates for the position and a half there you got?
Yeah, there's 5 total.
Really?
Yeah, well, for between the two seats.
I think there's 3 for the 3-year term and 2 for the 1-year term, right?
Oh,
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yep.
Any of them interested in the planning board?
I was gonna say,
I think they should make the losers
I-
have to be on the planning board.
I was
That might be
gonna-
like
I was gonna
first
make,
prize
I
when we
think
can
you
fill
need to
out
have
the
the-
second prize
You
in
have
2
to
weeks.
serve as in the planning board.
Yeah, I
first,
think that's-
And then you have
well,
to.
we've had
council.
Mallory Cook for one. And so I was actually serious. I was gonna make that pitch tonight that anybody who's unsuccessful with a town council run, there's gonna be 3 people that don't make town council. I think they ought to be on the planning board. What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah.
We're already all committing to doing the meetings and everything. Why not, right?
Well,
Right,
the
exactly.
planning board is a commitment, yes, but it's much less of a time commitment in general than town council. So
Yeah.
in my mind, it's always been more manageable. And people urged me to run for council 15, 20 years ago, and I said I'll do the planning board because I'd rather do that and stay married than be on the town council and be divorced.
It's a good litmus.
So anyway, it's 6:33 by my computer. And I think I hear Manley, so I think we got a quorum, so we'll go through the roll call and we'll start the meeting. I think it's gonna be a fairly brief meeting. We don't have a lot of any case business to do. We got some ordinance things to talk about. So I'm gonna, I'll call the roll. I think I heard Manley. Are you here, Manley?
Yeah,
Okay, Manley's there, great. Hershey's here, Jeff's here, Betsy's here, I'm here, so that's a full board. Great, okay. The first item is the approval of the minutes from September 15. I looked at those and, whoops. I only had one minor correction, that's on line 17. And that should be Randall, not Ramsdale.
That's what I was gonna say.
I caught it. I normally don't catch typos, but there you are.
I tell you though, that is the one thing I find Google corrects my last name as.
Really?
So
Oh,
it could
really?
have been a Google, it could have been like they tried to fix it or something.
Okay, all right.
wait a minute, it's 2 different people. And me, so we definitely missed that one.
Is there any other corrections by anybody?
Yeah, there's another one under member comments at the end. Mr. Manley,
Mr. Manley Gove, yeah.
it's the same guy, but
Yeah.
I don't know how he wants to be referenced. Those are the 2 that I saw.
Okay, great.
Good.
All right, I'll take a motion to accept them as amended
I'll make that motion.
by Jeff, second
and
by Betsy, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hand so I can see you.
I
And
was,
Manley-
I was absent and
Oh.
repenting, so I need to abstain.
Okay, and so
I
we,
can't-
are you,
I can't say
you're,
Manley.
Manley, you good?
I'm good.
Okay, so it's 4-0, 1 abstention. Good. Okay, great. we have a few items to discuss today. They're not, we don't have any cases, but is there anybody in the public who wishes to address an issue that's not on the agenda? Okay. You'll just get my speech at the end about being on the planning board. That's fine. So, okay. So we don't have any correspondence, but we David and Amy, we're going to discuss notification procedures for site plan review and subdivision review. And I like to start in that order and take the number one at the end. David and Amy discovered that we have a lot more in our ordinance now that we have not been and essentially possibly following all the time. So I'll let David or Amy discuss what the existing ordinances say, and we'll see what we have to do from there. Backing up, at the last meeting, we talked about making sure that there's public opportunities for a public to involve themselves and ask the applicants questions at the beginning of the process. And we have a hearing at the end of the process. We want to have them to have the opportunity to address questions of the applicant at the sketch plan review period or early, so that they could be heard and perhaps incorporated into the applicant's subdivision or site plan. So we decided to look and see what we have and whether we need to consider any amendments. So with that, I'll let you guys tell us what you found out.
Okay, do you want me to start, Amy? Can I share my screen also? I'll just put down some of my notes. You guys can all follow along if you'd like, or would you?
That sounds
want me to
great,
just Okay. How many documents do I have out there? Okay, I can't see what you're seeing, but can you see my screen now?
You can now, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to skip down to the second one. So this is, we're going to talk about the site plan process first, correct?
140, okay, yep.
Okay, so in my emails, if you look at the current ordinance, is listed right here under 4, and it says a sketch plan discussion with the planning board shall be scheduled according to a submission schedule set by the town, which we have. The town shall immediately notify all the butters in writing of the application and sketch plan meeting date. And it continues on, but I highlighted that second sentence because I don't think we've been doing this.
We have not.
So there's that, but I think just needs a minor modification. This may not even trigger a formal public hearing if it's just wordsmithing. If you recall, we had met with the town attorney on, I don't know which issue we were discussing, but he said if it's just a change in, but you're accomplishing the same thing, but you're changing the wording a little bit.
Yeah.
But that we would leave to the town attorney to weigh in on that. So one of the things that we need to talk about is, should the town start doing this like we should have been?
Well, yeah.
And the other thing that I suggested, if you go back, go down, on that sketch plan meeting, the other item that I highlighted here says the board reserves the right during the sketch plan meeting to invite public comment on the proposal to gather further information on the site and its surroundings.
So I'm sorry, just to interrupt, so make sure this is not added language. The red language is language that's in our ordinance currently.
This is all current ordinance. The only things that I've highlighted in red, and that's the end where it says the surroundings. That is the last section of that ordinance.
Right.
So can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, that is the end of the ordinance. So there's 2 things that I think we need to possibly change. I think the second one we could leave as is. That gives the board flexibility that at the sketch plan, if neighbors want to ask questions, we can have that dialogue at the very first meeting, which I think is a great thing. The board could reserve that right. I've never seen this board not allow folks to talk. So I think that language is okay. But the a notification of all abutters, that is a problem unless we just start following what we say. But one of the things that I suggested is that instead of having the town make that notification, we would have to have the applicant make that notification. So an application would come in, we would take a look at it. Amy, Joe would determine that the application is ready to go in front of the planning board. We would notify the applicant what date we're going to put that on. It's for the first time they're in front of you folks, and they would have to notify the abutters, and they would have to send that certified and give back to town certified like we do normally. So if you want that, we could change that responsibility of who does the notification. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. So I just need the, yeah, we want to change something, or no, we want to leave it exactly the way it is right now, which still works. It
Yeah, it
just
does.
adds, it just adds a little bit of more work on Amy's desk, I'm sure.
Yeah, so the
Oops.
the applicant has to determine the list of abutters, so that's on them, right? No matter how you look at it.
Cor- It doesn't specify.
But they, well, they almost always do, don't they? As part of a, well, actually, I don't know. We need to think about that. I'm sorry, David, was this, was this part of a document that was sent to board members?
It was, I sent you 3 documents. There was one that talked about the zoning board having the right to grant waivers to the street design standards. There was this one that we're looking at right now, which is for site plan review notification standards, and the other is for
Subdivision.
subdivision.
I
notification standards.
apologize because I failed to forward these to the entire board. I should have.
Amy,
Yeah.
did the
I did.
board, did you send those to the board?
When I sent the agenda.
Oh, okay,
That's-
so, okay, everybody
Yeah,
got
that's
this,
what I
okay.
thought. So did
Okay.
you folks all get those 3 documents? Yes, no?
I,
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, and maybe I overlooked it. I haven't seen it.
Okay. I could, while you're sitting here, do you want me to just send you this document that I'm working from? It's got all 3 items on it divided by a line.
Please do that. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Give me 2 seconds. I just need to save it and I'll send it to you. Hold on.
Great.
I actually have a question, Bill.
Okay. I can do 2 things with 1 or 2 hands. No, I can't apparently.
While you're doing that, David, I wanted to ask, it's really not that much extra work, but when they come in front of us initially, we
Uh-huh.
haven't said anything to the butters until after they've come to us, and then they are responsible, applicant, to send to the abutters.
Well,
I don't send anything to the abutters.
that's
Right.
what this is.
Right, but in the ordinance, it says that the town immediately notifies. And I think that language should be changed, because right now, what we had been doing is asking the applicants to make notification to the abutter. So it has been getting done for, I don't know, I think we've been doing that for at least 6-9 months.
Hasn't been getting done.
No, I mean, the applicants have been notifying the abutters early on. So
Sure that.
we just need to do it in the sketch plan.
Right, I just want to make sure we're on the same page as to when the applicant sends to the abutters, because the applicant has to get the list of abutters together on their own. We don't do that for them.
Right. Right.
And sometimes they don't have that list when they come up in front of us for the first actual meeting. See what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right, so they would have to do that basically when we assign the meeting date.
Right. Let's go back to the ordinance and see what that language is.
Okay, hold on, let me,
I'll get those sent off. Then let's look and see what it actually says. And I think the ordinance requires us to do what we think ought to happen. And if we have to shift it around, we can shift it around.
See what I mean?
okay. Give me 2 secs here. Sorry, guys, I had to save that document. And now I gotta. There we are. And then, yes. Oops. Jeff, Hershey, and Betsy. Okay, so let me see. Do I have everyone here? Bill, Manley, Amy, Hershey, Jeffrey, and Betsy.
Right.
That's everyone? Okay. Okay, it should be coming across your desks right about now.
So why don't you go back to that language and let's talk about it.
Okay, let's see. So this is site plan again. So I'm gonna reshare my screen. So the folks who are watching with us at home. Okay, can you see my cursor and it says we have been discussing?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
good. All right, so right now, this is the site plan process. And I wrote, the site plan review process is attached with a couple of items of note shown in red. Most notable is item 4. And then I listed this, the town shall immediately notify all abutters in writing of the application and sketch plan meeting date. My suggestion was leave that language with the exception of the applicant shall immediately notify all abutters.
Okay,
Um,
looking at the whole thing. Scroll it down just a little bit.
Okay,
Okay, so hang on. Sketch plan discussion with the planning board shall be scheduled according to a submission scheduled by the town. Town shall immediately notify all abutters in writing of the application and sketch plan meeting date. So the idea is that abutters are notified before the sketch plan meeting date.
correct.
Then at the sketch plan, they do this, they do that, they do this, they do that.
Right.
And-
And at the sketch plan, if you look at the other item down here, the board reserves the right during the sketch plan meeting to invite public comment on the proposal. So I think that language is actually okay. If you want to, if you guys want, we can leave that exactly how it is. But I think up in here, my suggestion was the applicant. And should we, and abutters, we want to send within 500 feet of the property, just immediate abutters,
Well, whatever
whatever the standard is.
well, there's a definition of a butter someplace.
Mhm.
50 feet,
500,
50,
200 feet,
200 feet, right?
200 feet, okay.
50 feet.
250, but that's defined elsewhere. You don't have to deal with that here.
Right.
Sketch plan discussion with planning board will be scheduled according to a,
So can I ask for the detail? And I'm sorry, maybe you reviewed this last meeting that I missed, David, but someone submits their application, we schedule how far in advance?
Amy,
Is it
that's
the
probably
following
your-
meeting?
Usually we have the sketch plan comes in, and I think as soon as the sketch plan comes in, Amy would put that on the next meeting. Now, if we want to make sure that there's enough time for that sort of that notification, I will have to tie that back into notification within X, Y, and Z.
Right, it'd be great if there were a time, something more distinct than immediately, that's all. Like within 2 days or 1 day or upon submission, concurrently. I mean, part of the submission process maybe should just be getting this done at the same time. Just so
Right.
there's enough time for people, just something
Yeah.
that's laid out and reasonable, that's all.
Okay.
or it could say prior to the meeting where the sketch plan is presented, the notification to all abutters shall be made in writing. And so the idea is that the notifications are out there before the meeting, obviously.
Right, and they have to do that, but I think if we put a date in there, maybe like Hershey said, that within 7 days of the, or, 7 days of the hearing or something of that nature.
Let's
is-
let's take up the big issue first. I mean, we haven't been doing this.
Right.
Later on, when we get to a public hearing on the actual project, we do it. So is there a consensus of the board that this is important, but the responsibility for it should be assigned to the applicant?
Yes.
I have a question also in regards to like the Conservation Commission being involved as well.
Right.
The applicant wouldn't necessarily know how to get involved there, correct? So, and can we have that be a part?
We
the
can,
process.
we can add notification and say all butters within 250 feet and the Conservation Commission. We could require it to be notification to the school district. I mean, if it's a subdivision, that might make sense in the subdivision section when we get there, but you
No,
know,
I don't think we want to go farther than what, I mean,
I don't believe, David, that that is correct. We're gonna have to look at the ordinance. You are not, the applicant in the town is not required to notify anybody outside of 250 feet.
right.
We're going to change the ordinance to state that. That would have to go through the town council. And the only reason I'm saying that is because we've had that issue in the past.
Right.
You know, like First Land Trust or the Historical Society, all those extra side committees.
yeah, I agree.
Uh,
I think my opinion is we shouldn't go beyond what the notification is. Those other parties would, it's all noticed anyway. So if someone wants to get in it, they would be involved in a formal public hearing at the end of the process.
Correct.
But I think, you know, we don't have to bend over backwards. Just want to make sure that everybody, the abutters know what's going on. So,
if I could just add the language of what the notification requirements are. It says as outlined in chapter 121, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
Yes.
Correct? I mean, I don't think that's changing anything because that's the notification.
yeah,
just
right, that's
clarifying.
fine. Yeah, do it that way. So this would say, what we would say is, prior to the meeting, the applicant shall notify all abutters in writing the application and sketch plan meeting date. And
Can I ask another question just in regards to that if we kept right now, as it says, the town, you know, Amy and Joe have all that information right in our own records in the town. The applicant, how would they get that information?
oh, it's easy to do. They go on the website.
They could use the town's website.
Okay, so it's not going to create an option. Is there a potential for Sally Joe being missed out and saying, hey, I was never notified. Now we have that issue and there's no, what are the repercussions if they miss somebody? Whereas the town necessarily like knows all the people, you know what I mean?
Well, they would,
So normally when we get the application, originally when they come up in front of us.
Yeah.
If they're ready to go and they actually have the abutter list prepared, Joe goes through that abutters list.
Okay,
Make sure to, you know, he'll look through it quickly and compare it to our tax maps. And then from there, I think that on a Wednesday night, they come up in front of us, they have their abutter list, they have, you know, their official meeting. Once that happens, the language in asking them to submit to the abutters should just state within, you know, 5 business days or something, or within a week, because you only have to let them know a week in advance.
right. That's what I'm saying. I can just, if I list the chapter and verse of what those specifics are, I can just say as outlined in section whatever, and
Yeah.
it'll just refer back to who needs to be notified by when. It gives all that information.
if it does say by when, yeah.
Right. I'm pretty sure it does. I could.
Okay. No, that answered my question. Thank you.
Yes, as far as all the committees and things, I think that's changing more what has to be done. And I think that, I think Bill's right, that maybe we don't touch that.
I agree. Yeah, we shouldn't. So we have to see if the notification section includes the schedule, or we have to deal with the word shall immediately.
Mhm.
And so so shall, that's the question. And is that, but the point is, we need, in the ordinance here, we need to make it clear that those notifications are made in advance of the meeting by a certain amount of time.
A question. Though, how soon from the time they get the application in, do they find out what the actual meeting date is? I mean, do they find out right away?
No, you're right, because that's a great point. I mean, so there's another step here where the town, well, it says according to a submission scheduled by the town.
The submission schedule is the same all the time. So if it's a brand new item, brand new project, they have a certain submission date. It's usually the Tuesday, 2 weeks before the next meeting. If it's something that's ongoing, like Ben and Lot was ongoing all the time, it was a Tuesday before the Wednesday. So they had a week and a day.
Yes,
So what, we get a brand new project, 100%, they come in front of us, we get it we get it in our office by 4 PM on a Tuesday at the beginning of the month. They wouldn't be in front of us until the second meeting. So they literally would have, if we ask them for the abutters to be notified at that point, which we're not, we're asking them to be notified after the meeting, their first meeting in front of us.
the whole point of this is we want them to notify the abutters when the sketch plan is presented.
Exactly.
So
that-
what happens if the sketch plan is the first meeting?
That's what we're dealing with. They would have to get these notifications out before that first meeting.
So
So
we're
Amy, you and Joe would have to make sure that they have a date more than a week before
Right.
your planned presentation.
And if they don't have that time, we put them on the following meeting.
Well, I think what we're running into is the timeline of every 2 weeks, or the first and the third of each month. I mean, the bottom line is we want to give the abutters the opportunity to come to the meeting as possible, but they need to be in front of us for one meeting without having to notify the abutters. They're given that opportunity, aren't they?
Not according to the current ordinance.
Under the current ordinance, the town is supposed to notify the abutters before the first meeting. I mean,
Right.
if they come to the planning board with a sketch plan, this is precisely what we're talking about here. They're supposed to, someone needs to let the abutters know of that sketch plan meeting.
So we're
And it
gonna have
needs
to
to-
talk about that, because I mean, when I came here, a lot of this was based on the abutters never were notified until obviously the public hearing, as we all know. And notifying the abutters at all in that process was never, I was never given that.
I know, but it was in our ordinance.
I understand that. What I'm trying to say though is if it's something that we're not doing, how are we going to get the abutters lists? I'm sorry, how are we gonna get the notice out without having the town do it?
We don't have to.
We would put the onus on the applicant to give them notification of a sketch plan meeting. And they would have to send that out certified like we do like they're required to do for regular notifications. They would just have to do it one time earlier.
At time of submittal at 4 PM on that Tuesday, when they give us the application, that's when they're supposed to notify the abutters?
When do they get confirmed for that date?
That night. So if they show up before 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, I don't have it in front of me, the actual dates.
Yeah.
Like the last night at 4 o'clock, we received something. And so I need my list in front of me. I'm bubbling my words here. So, okay, if they come in on a Tuesday at 4 o'clock, the following Wednesday night meeting. Right? After that, they would be on the meeting. They would be confirmed for the second meeting of the month.
Mhm.
Make sense?
Amy, sorry. Just to clarify, I think the basis of it is is that they have to have it into us for at least 2 weeks.
Only
Right?
if it's,
Only if it's what?
only if it's a new project.
Right.
A
Yeah.
new project.
So as long as we can get that, as long as they can know the sketch plan meeting date a week in advance, that gives you a week from the time you get it to the time they have to notify people. Is that enough time?
Plenty of time. If they want to get their project, they gotta just look at what they're supposed to do. Can't do it, then they can wait for the next meeting.
Right.
Right, so.
I think most people who submit applications are familiar with how these regs work, and it's actually typical that applicants do the notification, and there are companies you can hire to do it for, and we're small, but as long as it's laid out in the ordinance and it's really clear on what the schedule looks like, I don't think this is a big burden. And I think it can be done within a few days of submission. So I would say within 3 days of submitting, because they're planning to submit, they know they're submitting, they know what date they're going to go before the planning board, and we just need to make it clear that, we expect them to notify 3 days later or something like that.
So,
Okay, so-
what if we try the language, is that the first sentence it stays the same? And then the second sentence starts out, at least 5 days prior to the meeting at which the sketch plan is presented, the applicant shall notify the abutters, blah, 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 blah.
I think we have that language, Bill, but I can certainly put something like that in there, but I think the ordinance has that language, and I was just looking through my ordinance real quick and I couldn't pull it up. But how about, does everyone agree that the applicant should make this notice before sketch plan? Let me at least get,
Let's start there.
okay.
Well, let's make sure. Is everybody, the board in agreement with that idea? Thumbs up?
The earlier, the better.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so if that language needs to be changed, I can clarify the abutter notification. But I think if I just reference it like I have, these notes that I just added in here in blue, that's things that I need to do. So if I can refer back to the chapter that says you have to notify abutters within X amount of days, this distance, or so I can change that language, but I'm trying to modify the language to not change
Right.
what it really, the same thing's occurring, but
Okay.
by different people.
So let me just summarize, I think where we're at on this issue. That we want to be sure there's a positive notification to abutters prior to the sketch plan being presented to the planning board for the first time.
Correct.
And we want that to be done by the applicant. And we want that to be done on a time frame which is compatible with people being able to react to that. So if we are going to consensus on that, then David can research the right words, and we can look at that next time. Does that make sense? Okay.
Now,
by me.
If
Now,
I,
this is going to be, let me just insert that this is, it's funny because Manley's concern, turns out we had it in our ordinance, but we weren't using it correctly. So here we are. This is great. And if it delays someone by a meeting, it delays someone by a meeting, but it creates the opportunity in the ordinance and in fact of abutters being able to notice and ask questions and so forth. So
I think it's gonna pass to of receiving these late submissions where we don't have time to react. It's gonna get them to get their act together.
right. So
Okay.
so he'll do that. Now on the second, the last sentence, this paragraph, that's the second one that's in red.
yep, the
I'm-
board reserves, all right.
I'm totally fine with that. Does anybody have any question on that?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, so
Good.
good. So I will not make any changes to that.
Now,
There we go.
do we believe that we can make these changes without town council approval?
What I would do is, I think what it'd be best is I can draft up some language in the next couple of days, pull it together, and maybe what I could do is send them to Phil and ask Phil, just review these. Here's what the current language is. Here's the new language, and I'll do it like I normally do, underline it, strike through, and send it to Phil and just say, Joe, obviously, and just say, this is the existing language, and let him compare. You know, do we have to do a public hearing on this? On this one is, I think, the easiest almost of the three. So I think it's fairly simple. And then once he gives me the go ahead, at least I'll know what approval process we have to follow.
Okay,
And then I could share the new language with the board as part of your next packet that goes out.
okay. Sounds good. Let's move on to subdivision then.
Subdivision. All right. So if you go down the form that I just sent you at the bottom of the page.
Yep.
This is the subdivision, so public notification. So the town subdivision says whenever the board receives a subdivision plan for preliminary approval, it may require a public hearing be held and that owners of adjacent properties be notified in writing of the time and place of such a hearing.
So now this is followed by a formal public hearing on the final plan, right? So
Correct.
that public hearing is happening otherwise for anything that's any complex. But what we're saying is we've discovered that we may require a public hearing at the preliminary stage. Okay.
Correct. And do we
Actually,
want,
and this says whenever the board receives a subdivision plan for preliminary approval, doesn't mean we've preliminary approved anything. This is analogous to
Right.
sketch plan. It's
Right.
analogous to sketch plan.
right. And so we would do, we do the normal subdivision sketch plan, but it may require, I think that if we're doing a subdivision, you should notify the abutters.
And would that be, it may require a public hearing? Notified. So is that it should be notified, is that notified by the town, by the applicant?
That was the other problem. It doesn't specify who does that notification. So again, it was one of those things that we've always required the abutters to do it, but when I looked at the language, it doesn't designate the review. And
Right.
anytime you have an ordinance, you want to say the code office or the applicant or the
Yeah.
police department or fire department, someone's got to be responsible for doing it. So again, on this one, I thought almost by just including in writing by the applicant.
Or put the applicant, it must be notified by the applicant, by the applicant after the word, by be notified.
Notified.
Put shall.
Nope. Sorry.
Yeah, so it shall be notified by the applicant.
Yeah, and this one specifies adjacent properties.
That should be a butters by the same, that should be the same definition of a butters. Because adjacent properties, what the hell is that? Is that across the road? Is that across the river?
Right,
All
so
that-
whoop. And then maybe we don't highlight that, so we've got to think of make sure that we carry on same standards.
And so then the next question is, this says may. Should that be shall? If we have, if we have a little-
Must.
if we have a little, 3-lot subdivision. Because who are we to judge whether that's important or not? I guess that's the question. Minor subdivisions that are not controversial, but who's to say they're controversial? It's for someone else.
You never know if a neighbor may say they don't own that property, and if there is a property dispute, again, that's an abutter legal issue between the two of them. However, we don't want to approve a subdivision, then find out 10 years later that, oh, these 3 lots really can't be that big, therefore we've got 3 non-conforming lots.
If we're requiring notification of butters for sketch plan, we would require notification for submittal for preliminary approval, and may should be changed to shall.
I agree.
Okay,
Me too.
So, all right,
Do I mute? No.
well, we're
You're agreeing with me, Hershey.
Can you believe it, Manley? It happens. It happens once in a while.
it's a good thing.
It's all good. It's all about planning.
Okay, I think, thank you very much, David. This is good news, because we thought we were gonna have to create some stuff out of whole cloth here, and we don't.
right. I think they're fairly easy, easy fixes.
Yeah.
And do you want to hit the third one?
Yeah, but let me give a little background on that first.
Okay.
The several years ago, the town council, when we redid road standards, they retained, they didn't allow us to do waivers of certain things on the roads, including sidewalks when they were in the table. And they required that if the applicant wanted to not do it, that we, the planning board, are not empowered to grant a waiver that is conventional that we could do on budget stuff, but that the applicant would have to go to the board of ZBA, zoning board of appeals, to get that change. And that's been a real clunker ever since, because the ZBA says, what? We don't do that. And
Right.
it didn't make any sense. And I think that was a artifact of the philosophy of a previous town council. That's my own opinion. And so that's a setup for what David's going to describe next.
Okay. This one again is fairly easy. So there's a couple of items that are linked together in the ordinance. So I listed the numbers in here. Under 121-8, under the town's waiver standard, and this was when that was last changed, which was in 2015. This is exactly the language that was in there. And so I highlighted a couple of sections. The blue, unfortunately, that will not allow me to change the color on this. So I'll use a different color for amending this. But with the exception of street specifications as described in chapter 121, article 7, 121-44, and design standards, which shall not be waived or modified, and without affecting the planning board's implementation of chapter 140, and it goes on to describe some of that. So then down here under the street and utility standards, it talks about where the standards cannot be met, and upon showing undue hardship, the Board of Appeals may grant a variance from the standards of 121-44-N design standards. So the part here, the Board of Appeals may grant a variance. My personal opinion is that should read it, the planning board may grant a waiver from the standards of 121-44-N.
Yeah, because
To me, it makes sense for the board to review the roadway standards as you're reviewing the road that they're putting
Right.
in.
And they took it away from the planning board in 2015 for unknown reasons. And a variance, if you go to the law and the rules of the zoning board of appeals, a variance is something that is granted with respect to a zoning classification. It's not defined in any way as something that could be coming into a subdivision ordinance. It just doesn't make any sense. And so the zoning board of appeals is empowered to hear appeals of administrative decisions and appeals and hear appeals for granting a variance of the zoning things because of hardship. It has nothing to do with the site plan review. And so this has come up a couple times And applicants don't know what to do. The ZBA doesn't know what to do.
So,
I think we definitely ought to be the board, the planning board, because these things are complicated. We're having hearings from the abutters. What does the zoning board of appeals knows about all these hearings and the concerns of the
They don't.
so can I ask, these waivers normally reside with planning boards, but beyond that, is the idea of undue hardship defined anywhere?
Not in our ordinances.
Hmm.
The
Does that
hardship-
include a financial hardship? Can somebody come in and say, I don't want to pay for a road and I'd like a waiver because I don't
That's
want to
right.
pay?
And actually, if in our waiver language,
Yeah,
the things that we can grant waivers for, it specifically says it should not be for cost reasons. It has to be for other reasons.
okay, so there is a hardship standard. It's not the 4 prongs, though, that the ZBA needs to address, right? When they give their hardship variances, when they give out their variance, right? They have that 4-prong test, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right,
Okay,
right,
So variance is the wrong word. It's absolutely the wrong word.
right, we give a
Well,
waiver.
But the ZBA under law cannot grant waivers of subdivision standards. That's not what they have. All they can do is grant variances or not based on the 4-prong thing that Hershey's talking about.
Right, okay,
which are incredibly hard to prove. But, so, again, I know it's sort of voting to give yourselves more power. This one will likely need to go back and have
Yeah,
a public hearing.
this definitely.
go to the
has be
council.
something.
But I could look at the hardship. I mean, mostly you'd go by common sense. If there was something where we had to get the drainage, that we didn't want to put in a curb in a certain area, and it makes sense and logical, like this will make the drainage work for the whole site. If you had to have a missing section of gutter, for example, and you had just an open ditch or something. But I think Hershey is right. You know, I think cost is not shouldn't be a reason. We can look at that language in there. And as I said, as this one would need to go to the town council. Anything that you want to put in here, we should put that in at this time.
Yep. So, they took away the ability to, for the planning board, as I said earlier, to deal with road waivers and for whatever reason. Now, this has come up on 2 or 3 projects with respect to sidewalks. And it could be other things come up, but it's specifically for sidewalks on the, subdivision down on 236, what's that, oh heavens, I can't think of the guy's name.
oh, yeah. One
Cole
behind the
Lane.
daycare.
Cole Lane,
Yes.
Thank you, Stephanie.
That and the civil consultants did the plan for it, and they somehow danced with the ZBA and got the variance somehow. I don't know how they did it, but I remember civil consultants coming before us saying, "How do we deal with this?" And they had to originally have a design which showed a sidewalk, which didn't make any sense, but it was required under the ordinance for that type of roadway. When there was a lot of reasons why it wasn't appropriate on that application.
Right.
And it came up someplace else.
We also came across it, if you recall, at Bennett, coming off Bennett Lot Road, where they were going to have to put a sidewalk like 50 feet or something into the site, and it didn't lead to anything. It didn't, it didn't make sense, and we
Right,
were also
so-
trying to reduce impervious on that.
Yeah.
But there's also been one other project in the last year that the board saw, which had a similar situation. They hadn't really finished, they hadn't even figured out the roadway design, and they decided that they would go to the zoning board of appeals, get a waiver before even figuring out what the road, because they didn't want to put in a sidewalk.
But that never proceeded, right?
No,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
but
so-
it was one of those things that they just said, well, we were told to go to the ZBA and ask for a waiver not to put in sidewalks.
Yeah.
And that was all she wrote. And that may be okay in certain situations, but
So basically, what we want to do is, it has nothing to do with power or authority. It has to do with logic. We want to have the ability to consider waiver requests for anything that waivers can be asked for, including road standards. Back to where we had it for road standards.
That's why they call us the planning board.
And the logic would be, it's because such a waiver would be related to everything else we're looking at. And the ZBA it was just incredibly clunky to assign this to the ZBA.
Right.
I
Those
said, let's
guys-
do it.
Is there consensus to try to go back to where things were on this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, David, you got your marching orders.
Okay, and that's great. I think we are in good.
So we'll have we can have a presentation of some specific language next time if we can get there.
Absolutely. I don't think this is going to be an issue at all.
I don't think, yeah, okay, great. Okay,
And I did, just to give you a quick update, I did start pulling together a tracking sheet type of thing and how we can modify. So I started working on that. I just didn't finish it. So I didn't want to send it in before it's at least in a draft form.
okay, great, okay. Thank you, that's great. And that, it's not in the agenda per se, but last time we talked about getting a status of each project that can be updated every meeting or every month based on the requirements for projects to proceed, and if they don't, they fall off the process. And David has and Amy have made some contacts on that, and we may or may not get some information from the Meadow Pond project for next time based on that. But the whole idea there is that we don't have the ordinance is clear that if you don't continue to make progress, the application doesn't stay alive forever. And I have to make certain progress or the application lapses. Hershey, I interrupted you.
No, you didn't. Actually, I almost interrupted you. So can I just ask though, have we gotten any of the information from the solar project, NBD Solar? That were part of their conditions?
No,
And I assume they're not doing anything, right? They haven't gotten a permit, they haven't proceeded, great, okay. I just want to make sure this one doesn't get forgotten.
no,
That's
they can't get a building permit till those things
Right.
are in place. Yeah,
Okay, just checking.
good, right.
Yeah, on that one, we haven't signed or done the findings of fact. If you recall, there was some items in there. I believe I emailed you that one too, Bill. But
I think I thought we passed it though with conditions. We approved with conditions and I'm waiting for the conditions, right, to be met.
hold on, let me.
We didn't get any information from DEP or Inland Fish and Wildlife, and we are waiting to see that, yeah?
Hold on.
And you know, can I just, in a general way, throw this in there while we're on this topic that I brought up, sorry. Is there some reason we can't ask for that information as part of a complete application?
Which stuff? The IF&W business?
Yeah, it seems to have sunk a couple of projects at the very end, which, you know, hey, it's not my responsibility, so, you know, it's not my job to take care of the developer, but on the other hand, you know, it means we don't have a full picture as we're debating a project.
Right.
You know,
And
if
I
it waits,
think-
so
I
that,
think asking for that information before the final approval is fine.
Hershey, I think we have that ability now. I don't think we have to modify our ordinance.
okay, well then let's just keep that in mind and ask for it, I guess, is what I'm saying. Maybe that's the solution.
I agree. I mean, in
Okay.
the last couple of years, it's a threshold issue. It's not something at the end, you know?
Right, exactly.
Okay. David, did I drop a ball? Did you send me something on the findings of fact on that project that I have not dealt
No,
with?
I seem to remember I looked up the background on that one and I'm looking through my emails right here, but I I can certainly give you an update. I thought I sent you one just last week, but
And I apologize, I've been
not,
crazy busy, and if I don't normally have things fall through the cracks, but if it did, it did.
And David, make
Yeah.
sure you suck Bill dry before he leaves us in the lurch.
why do you think these three things got added to the agenda? I like, look, we got business to take care of. All
Okay.
right,
All right,
super.
on new business, there was a workshop last night with the town council and us, and Hershey and Jeff and I attended regarding the development of ordinance to further regulate marijuana businesses in South Berwick. We met with Phil Saucier, and there was I don't want to need to go through the whole thing, but the caregivers who can't touch, registered caregivers we might be able to touch. And the idea is to, we determined that there's no local enforcement now currently, except for the ordinances that we have for medical storefronts and the cultivation. If the town has an ordinance that's broader than that, then the town has the ability to enforce that ordinance and not rely on the Office of Marijuana Policy of the state of Maine, which you never get anything out of, to deal with facilities that might challenge the definitions of what's allowable and push the boundaries to inappropriate spots. And that was a fundamental concern during the whole ordinance review process last summer. And that was part of our fundamental recommendations to council back in July, that we do this ordinance that is comprehensive for everything in South Berwick. And so anyway, there's progress on that, and there's about to start. I think the town council's in the driver's seat on that. They're gonna call on us to do some work, probably. They're gonna call on citizens, I think, to be part of some committee to move that along. And that's gonna be important work. I believe the vast majority of that work is at the council level. It's not so much land use. It's a licensing of businesses and so forth, but we'll see what comes to us. But that happened last night. The ground rules are kind of set. And I think we are going to have to react to what the council does next on that. That's my feeling. We're not in the driver's seat on that, but we're being asked to monitor it. Hershey or Jeff, do you have other takes on what you heard last night?
No.
But
No,
this,
that
you know,
sounds-
these are things that we want. Jeff's been a champion of licensing since day one on these other ordinances. And I've become convinced that it's necessary because there's no other enforcement mechanism that we can count on at all for facilities that are currently or potentially could be developed under the registered caregiver title and go way beyond what is allowed clearly and push the boundaries of all those things. That's the thing I'm worried about. And then if we do the proper licensing, that would address that. So that was last night. Okay. So we're waiting for applicants.
We are waiting for applicants.
Yeah, that's great. So that's,
We might wait a long time.
who knows? So.
Yeah.
Make a motion.
I work in in my professional life, I'm an engineer and we work for several communities around here and do peer reviews of planning board submittals. And the action's still happening around here, down in Hampton and other places it's happening, but we've been a little bit slow here, but we weren't slow this past year, that's for sure. So.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll invite any member comments.
I thought you had a speech or something.
Yeah, I do.
Can I- Am I allowed to solicit a comment from somebody who's attending?
Sure, go ahead.
Steve, I call on Steve Bays. Steve, you were there last night as well. I just wanted to get your feedback about if you feel this is going to help your situation.
Well, I feel that a lot of the questions that were answered last night were a result of an additional submission I had just recently made to the town manager and copied the, well, acting town manager and the council members concerning my neighbor out here on Ogunquit Road. I was, and again, this was my takeaway, I was thrilled to hear, in my opinion, the town attorney confirm that that cannot be there operating legally as a retail store. So I, again, after battling this for nearly a year with my own personal attorney and things, to finally get that acknowledgement felt good. But again, the town is the one that needs to act, and what they choose to do, I think, is a wait and see kind of.
Can I didn't get your latest letter, I guess, because it went to the town council. Can I ask, it seems to me the big points are hours of operation, which it seems very reasonable to put a limit on that. I think that's really fair, no matter where these are placed. And also that you can't obviously operate a retail store there. We know that. So were there other key points about what needs to go in this that you want to talk about? Or make the planning board aware of?
I guess my thought is it's two separate things. It's the retail thing, the retail store, and then I believe what you were, or Bill was just talking about was a regulation of registered caregivers. My personal feeling and my view has been, this is way beyond that and has been way beyond that for a while. So I don't want to muddy the waters with, I don't want people to be confused. In my mind, it's two very different issues.
My take on that discussion last night was, I forgot the dates. It was December 2018.
18. Yeah.
When the state legislature passed the most recent law of substance, at that point in time, communities had to opt in to a variety of things, or they're not allowed in the community. One of the things that need to be opt-in was retail stores. And anything that was developed after that time, and the town had not opted in, seems to be illegal. And then the town adopted its ordinance in January 2020. And so then it's legal for medical marijuana stores from that time forward in South Berwick. And there's
But only where we've designated them, right? Making the one on Gonquit Road completely illegal.
And if it was developed between 2018, December 2018, after 2018, it's not authorized by law.
But it seems like the only group that can enforce it is the state office, right?
Well, I don't want to get into that
OPC.
because we don't know all the facts.
Yeah,
Okay.
I disagree, but I won't get into that either.
Okay, sorry, Steve. I
Uh,
just can't, I have to say, I keep trying to get information about why this hasn't been dealt with, but it's fine.
So
I don't
have
need to know
I.
everything.
So have
Yeah. I have some ideas, but maybe someday we'll have a beer.
Steve,
Okay.
I saw an email from you, I think the one we talked about. You're free to email that to anyone on the planning board.
Well,
Yes,
thank you.
I'd like to see your latest iteration because I find them very well laid out and thought out. So,
I'd be
But
thrilled.
as I've had some discussions, the enforcement is absolutely clearly not a function of the planning board on anything.
God knows, I wish it were.
I
some
know,
days.
I understand, but-
It's-
But we need to keep that in mind. Enforcement of ordinances is not in our purview. So just. keep-
However, I assume we can put in, who deals with penalties in the enforcement part then? Is that part of the town ordinance that has to do with building permits?
I don't know.
Okay.
It depends on what it is. If it's an enforcement issue, the town can instigate an 80K, which is it's 80K is a certain type of court case, and you can instigate that against a property owner, and the town can ask up to, it's like $100 a day to $1,500 a day violation type thing.
Well, that is what it is. And
Or
as I said earlier, I mean, obviously the Gunquit Road issue is out there. I'm rather concerned that there are a number of others that would potentially be challenging the boundaries of all this as well, and getting ordinance out there.
Well, but Bill, let's just put a little break in this and that. We've had, at the moment, I think 30, somewhere 28 to 30 medical marijuana registered caregivers in town. And so far, Algonquin Road is the only one I've heard of causing a major problem. Right? So they've been here for over 12 years, I think, growing, and I have them down the street from me, and it's a little hoop house. And I want to solve the Algonquin Road problem, so I'll go with this ordinance just for that. But I don't think we should paint everybody with the same brush. A lot of these are just small business owners. They do their thing. They haven't bothered anybody. I've never heard any other
I
complaints.
don't disagree. I think, and if they're operating within the law, great. We shouldn't be too concerned with them, but without a license for the guy who's going to blow the socks off the ordinances.
Sure, and that's fine. And for future problems, I sadly think, because the town has not done its job enforcing whatever the laws around Algonquin Road, we're now going to change our ordinance for this one problem. And I think that's all we can do at this point. And I'm happy to do it. I think the people living out there must be miserable with this guy.
Okay.
But I also want to just point out that there are plenty of people growing in our town for many, many years. And this is the first time it's become a huge problem that's become, that's come before us at least.
Yeah, okay, good.
So
Got it. Good.
I wanted to say that.
No, I'm
Thanks.
good.
Thanks,
So,
Bill.
And again, so our current board is 5 people. It should be 7 with 2 alternates. As everybody knows, I'm going to be stepping down at the end of December. And so that would be 4. If Jeff Minahan gets elected to council, that would be 3. And we really, really, really need to recruit planning board members regardless of what happens with me or Jeff. And it's a fine opportunity for public service. It's fun, mostly. It's interesting always. It's a fairly limited commitment compared to other things. And I think it's a great opportunity. So there's been a lot of people interested with the Zoom thing and the pandemic. We got many more people coming to meetings virtually than we've had in past. And I urge everybody, if you're interested enough to come to a virtual meeting, listen to this stuff, probably because of a particular issue that you're concerned with, that's understandable. But consider taking us another step farther and broadening your interest to serve the town, because we really need it. You can come in as a full board member. You can come in as an alternate. It's a good way to start. I started as an alternate back in 2007, 2008. That's how it works. We just need people and you don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be a landscape architect or an architect. You have to be just a thinking individual that can evaluate situations in accordance with the ordinances that we have. And so I urge all our board members to reach out, and all our people who are listening and others to consider a spot on the planning board.
That's a good pitch, Bill. I'm gonna put forward a motion that Bill can't leave unless he finds his own replacement. Somebody second that, please. Okay.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Betsy.
I don't know how.
Leave your cell phone number, Bill. That's all I can say.
All right. With that, Manley, you want to do your thing?
You're up.
Can we adjourn?
I need a second.
Second.
Second from Hershey. Favor? Aye. See everybody. Okay, great. Thanks a lot, guys.
Night,
Bye, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Have a good rest of the week. So what did your friend die of?
So she was a high school friend, and she was 50 years old. She actually died in her sleep. And we're pretty sure her body just gave up. I don't know if you remember the story of little Evie 8 years ago, 7.5 years ago, the little girl who died of meningitis. And
Sounds familiar, yeah.
organs. Let me make sure this is shut off before I call him to